Morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and to work for justice. Great to have all of you here. Thanks for being here today. Again, I want to welcome all that you bring with you this morning, all that you bring with you virtually, your uniqueness, your unique beliefs and background and lifestyle and experiences, and even your differences are welcome here. So thank you all so much for being here. Glad to have those that have been joining us regularly, as well as those who might be joining us for the first time this morning. Thanks so much for joining us during our virtual service this morning. I also want to begin, as I have been, by thanking Todd Milne for sharing his copyrighted music with us, since under the circumstances we're unable to actually play copyrighted material, but we do have his permission. So Todd, thanks again, really appreciate it. Thank you. A couple of quick announcements. I'm going to put in another plug, since we're still in the midst of May, for those who haven't or would like to contribute to the Vanessa Behan Center, the center that works to prevent child abuse and neglect by providing a safe place for parents who are under stress or unavailable to bring their kids to for a day or night or longer stays if possible. There is a anonymous couple in our congregation who have very generously offered to contribute a matching grant of up to $10,000 for the amount raised during the month of May. So this is going to continue through May, and you can still contribute by going to the vanessabehan.org website. That's vanessabehan.org/UUCS match. vanessabehan.org/UUCS match to contribute. And our gratitude to you and gratitude to the donors for that tremendous gift. Again, it'll be up through May. I am not going to be here next Sunday. I'm going to take the weekend off. So we will put up you can always go into our archive anyway and watch whatever service you want, but we'll find a suggested service and put up on the website for you to click on and be able to watch an older service if you'd like. So that's what I have for now, and I would like us to take a few moments, as we have been, to greet one another from a distance, using a cell phone. Make a phone call, a quick phone call, a text, an email, whatever works for you. I know this has been something that has continued to be a favorite part of our service, even though we're not able to be here to greet one another personally and face-to-face. You can do it at home, so I'll give you a few minutes to make that happen. There we go. It's okay. As always, I do hope that you'll stay in touch in other ways following our service. It's a big help to stay in communication with each other at this time. Let's move forward now by reciting the words to our chalice lighting, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found. Our opening words this morning are from Edwin Muir. Friend, I have lost the way. The way leads on. Is there another way? The way is one. I must retrace the track. It's lost and gone. But I must travel back. None goes there, none. Then I'll make here my place. The road runs on. Stand still and set my face. The road leaps on. Stay here, forever stay. None stays here, none. I cannot find the way. The way leads on. Oh, places I've passed. That journey's done. And what will come at last? The way leads on. I did not receive any special requests for candles of care this week, but I know there are a lot of folks on our minds and hearts at this time, so I have our virtual candle lit behind me. And if you have a light or candle at your home or want to simply think of those and name them aloud at this time that you are most thinking of this morning, you'd be welcome to do so now at this time as we have a moment of silence. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. I'm going to invite a favorite friend to join me now, who was also just visiting with some of our children during our children's hour this morning. So he stuck around to say hi to us. There we go. There's our friend Purple. Purple, it's good to see you. Can you say hello to everyone? Purple, would you please say hello? All right, Purple, what's going on? If I can't get him to talk, nobody can. Purple, it's obviously something bothering you. Would you mind sharing what it is? Well, why not? Why won't you talk to me? I'm mad at you. You're mad at me? Well, what did I do? You're just like everyone else. You're always trying to put words into my mouth. Well, why don't you tell me what this is all about?
Well, yesterday some other kids said that I look like Oscar the Grouch and the Grinch who stole Christmas. And they tried to get me to say grouchy things and grinchy things. But I don't know how to sound grouchy or grinchy. So they all started laughing at me.
Oh, Purple, I'm so sorry that the other kids laughed at you. And they tried to get you to say words that you don't belong to you. You know, as Unitarian Universalist, we believe that everyone has value and should be free to say what they want and to express what they wish.
Really?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a story. Once upon a time, there were some people on safari, and they saw something in the fields that they could hardly believe. It was a zebra, but not any ordinary zebra. This zebra, instead of being black and white striped, all of its stripes were different colors. It was a rainbow zebra. Oh, they thought, this is a real spectacle to see. We have to capture it and take it to a zoo. And so they took it to the zoo where it could be seen by everyone. And they put big signs up and announcements on TV and in the paper and on the radio and on Facebook and everything you could put notices up. And everybody was so excited to come to the zoo and see the rainbow zebra.
They were?
They were, but they were very disappointed because when everybody got there to look at it, the zebra had turned just simply black and white. Well, the zookeepers were in a panic, so they hired a great artist to come in and paint the zebra stripes so that it would be a rainbow zebra again, and it looked absolutely magnificent. But the next day, just before the zoo was supposed to be open and the lines were several blocks long, it was a black and white zebra again.
What happened?
Well, nobody knew, but they called yet another painter in. And that painter painted it all over again, and the zebra looked magnificent. And the next morning, when the zoo was about to open, the zookeepers discovered the zebra was simply black and white again. This happened several times. In the meantime, there was an old woman who everyone thought was kind of crazy. She claimed to be an artist, and she stood outside the zoo every day with her paintbrush and just waved it around in midair, absolutely touching nothing and painting nothing. But she asked if she could try to paint the zebra. And she went to the zookeepers, having nothing more to lose, decided to let her get near the zebra. And instead of using her brush to paint the zebra, she whispered into its ear. And with that, the zebra became rainbow-colored again.
What did she say?
Well, she whispered into the zebra's ear, "You shall be free again." Well, when the zookeepers heard that, they realized the terrible mistake they made. A rainbow zebra in captivity could not be free. Its spirit could not be free, and therefore it could not be all of its bright colors. And so the zookeepers returned the zebra to where it belonged, where it roamed the savannas free and was very colorful.
That's a good story.
Well, do you feel a little bit better now?
Much better. Oh, I think I got my color back.
I think you did get your color back. We'll see you later, Purple. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We're now going to have a moment of quiet meditation. Let us open our minds and hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love. Our reading today are the words from Unitarian minister Vivian Pomeroy. Forgive us that often we forgive ourselves so easily and others so hardly. Forgive us that we expect perfection from those to whom we show none. Forgive us for repelling people by the way we set a good example. Forgive us the folly of trying to improve a friend. Forbid that we should use our little idea of goodness as a spear to wound those who are different. Forbid that we should feel superior to others when we are only one more shielded. And may we encourage the secret struggle of every person. Wow, that was extraordinary. And that is from Susan Jane Hall's CD, Shabda. And the vocals were, of course, Susan Jane Hall. And Todd Milne on this CD plays the flute, ukulele, drum, and vocals as well. And then the djembe, bongos, shakers, and vocals were by Dario Ray. So thank you so much. That was a really beautiful piece. My sermon today is entitled Todd's Decalogue. What would I have written if I wrote the Ten Commandments? When it comes to theology, the Hebrew Scriptures, often referred to as the Old Testament, is a mixed bag. On the one hand, God seems brutal and unforgiving, and on the other, kind and merciful. This discrepancy has led to a certain theological theory known as dispensationalism, the idea that as humanity evolves out of its own brutality, it becomes increasingly able to comprehend the loving nature of God. For this reason, it's also called progressive revelation. And this seems a bit of a cop-out to me in order to preserve the integrity of these scriptures. But the Hebrew Scriptures were written by many hands over a period of 1,000 years. So it reflects lots of differences and contradictions, including different concepts of God. Whatever our idea of the Hebrew God may cloud our interpretation of everything else written in these scriptures, including the Ten Commandments, which I'm going to talk about today. For some, these are a list of arbitrary authoritarian decrees that should have little bearing or thinking in a person's life today. For others, they are commands to live by, but are taken so literally as to have little practical significance. I take the perspective, as do many, that they were written from a group of former slaves. And when interpreted in this light, remain extraordinarily meaningful even after thousands of years. Their perennial meaning, however, has gotten lost in translation over time. So I've rewritten them in a way that I think better helps us understand how they might have been understood by their original hearers. As biblical scholar Anthony Soresco reminds us, Exodus is the story of those who were at the very bottom of Egyptian society, effectively non-persons in the greatest empire of the day. It is not an account of a king and his battles or of great alliances and wealth. It is the story of a small group of slaves, their suffering and poverty and struggle, which later Israelites saw as the central moment, and source which gave meaning and purpose to their life as a people. So let's look at what the commandments might mean from the perspective of oppressed people. The first command, as it is written, states, "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no gods before me." A lot of people only recall this last part, "You shall have no gods before me." But the entire command is vital to understanding its meaning. For it doesn't say, as many presume, that there are no other gods, but admits there are many religious choices. Its point then is that we should not accept any ideology, religious or otherwise, that limits our freedom or the freedom of others. The religious litmus test is liberation for ourselves and others. Have no other gods than that. So here's how I would write this commandment today. Your religion must free you from the yoke of fear, hate, and false certainty, and move you to work for the liberation of others. Put nothing before your freedom or the freedom of others, and reject any beliefs that bind your heart and mind or that lead you to oppress anyone. The second command forbids worshiping graven images, and is a continuation of this same principle. You shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water and under the earth. You shall not bow down to them and worship them. In a puritanical sense, it's just an odd law against making statues. But from a liberation perspective, it's about not putting God in a box and not being so certain of any of our ideas that we want to force them on others. Making idols of our ideas kills them and prevents us from growing and fully expressing ourselves. Only those who had been so enslaved, prohibited from choosing their own religion, their own beliefs, their own words, could come up with such a liberating command. I think this command is about a lot more than erecting statues. It's about not institutionalizing any systems of injustice that prevent people from thinking for themselves and from being equals among others. So here's how I'd write it. Do not be absolute in your thinking, causing you to create and uphold rigid systems of injustice that will burden your children for generations. Rather, let compassion guide your longings, that all may endlessly enjoy the living, growing, changing realities of life. The third commandment continues to emphasize this emphasis, on getting our minds straight. You shall not make wrongful use of my name, for the Lord will not acquit anyone who misuses my name. For some, this simply means you shouldn't swear to God or curse in God's name. This command was taken so seriously that the writers of the Hebrew Scriptures only put 4 symbols, 4 unpronounceable consonants when referring to God, which translators eventually added vowels to result in the name Jehovah or Yahweh, according to which vowels are used. And some Orthodox Jews only say Hashem when coming across it, which means the name. This is quite a contrast to many religious believers who have no qualms about using the very word God as if it were a proper name. Or worse, going on to discuss the will and mind of this definitive person named God. So again, from a liberation perspective, the perspective of freedom, this command requires us to be humble about our beliefs, theological or otherwise, because just as soon as we become convinced we are right, we behave self-righteously, violating the first law of liberty by forcing our ideas on the unrighteous, on those heretics, apostates, and infidels we must wage holy war against in the name of God. My version of the command is, never speak as if you know the mind and will of your God, or think you can confine it within your books and creeds, or that you can attribute your own greed, hatred, and injustice to that which you can never comprehend. The fourth command is perhaps my favorite. 6 days you shall labor and work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you, nor your son or your daughter, your male or female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. I like to call this the first labor law in human history, guaranteeing time off. It even includes clauses covering child labor, equality for women, and animal rights. That was pretty progressive for when it was written, and again, could only have been written by former slaves who knew what it was like to never get a day off. Having known that horror, as soon as they became free, they made sure everyone and every creature got a break. But there's also something in this command about giving the earth itself a break. These days we've found ways to establish perpetual harvest with fresh fruits and vegetables year-round, and establish an economic system that has to continuously grow, or else it's considered a failure, resulting in perpetual summer, global warming in the process. COVID-19 is hurting our economy, even as it's giving Earth's systems a bit of a Sabbath from human activity. We need to emerge from this with a way to have a strong economy and a healthy planet. Here's my version of the Sabbath law. Live sustainably with the land and your fellow creatures, and make time to take pleasure in the beauty and harmony all around you. Do not let your short-sightedness upset this balance or destroy the world you are obligated to preserve for your children and fellow creatures. Appreciate and protect this sacred harmony with all your heart and in all you do. From a puritanical perspective, the fifth command, honor your father and mother, is about obeying the voices of dead people, which simply doesn't jive with the first law of liberty. But as Thomas Paine, a true freedom fighter, understood, the vanity and presumption of governing beyond the grave is the most ridiculous and insolent of all tyrannies. So from a liberation perspective, this command cannot be about obedience to old ways or to old ancestors. In the context of liberty, it must mean something else. Fortunately, in its entirety, the command says, honor your father and mother so that your days may be long in the land. A long life is the consequence of honoring our elders. Surely this is a command to make sure that we have systems in place to care for one another in old age. It's about establishing some sort of social security that everyone benefits from as we age. And that's exactly how I'd write it. Maintain social security and healthcare systems to care for your sick and elderly, assuring that when you become sick and elderly, you too will be cared for and able to enjoy a full and happy life. The meaning of the sixth command should be clear enough. Thou shalt not kill, or you shall not kill. Yet how many times has religion been used as an excuse to do just that? We hear of holy wars and of the just war theory first promoted by St. Augustine not long after Christianity became the official Roman religion. Even though Jesus said things like turn the other cheek, love your enemies, and put away your swords, some have found ways to justify violating this most simple to understand command of them all. So I have a couple of rewrites. The first says, do no violence against anyone, neither against those you know, nor against those you don't know. Neither against those like you, nor those dislike you. Neither against those near you, nor those far away. Or I'd simply improve upon the original by adding just one word. Thou shalt not kill. Period. The seventh command, a prohibition against committing adultery, is usually interpreted puritanically to forbid extramarital relations. But it helps to remember that at the time it was written, marriage was not a union between two lovers, but a financial arrangement between two men, as it has been throughout most of human history and remains in many places today. In addition to freeing fathers from the burden of caring for their daughters, it was about the only means of social security for the unfortunate girls being traded through an arranged marriage. Women weren't allowed to work or to own property of their own, so if an unmarried woman was taken advantage of and forced into relations and discovered, it was usually she who was accused of adultery. Even if she wasn't executed, she'd have very few ways to provide for herself once associated with the proverbial scarlet letter. So again, from a liberation perspective, I see this as a law about gender equality, about seeing women as fully human and as equals. As a universal command, it's a law that points the finger at the men involved. Jesus himself turned the tables on this by calling women the victims of adultery, not its perpetrators. It's a complicated command to grasp from our modern perspective, but from a liberation perspective, here's how I'd put it. Make certain your relationships are equal and mutual, and never based upon the power of one over another. The eighth command is also short and simple. You shall not steal. Again, from a modern perspective, this seems to be about petty theft. You should not steal candy bars from the convenience store, rob a bank, or go joyriding in someone else's car. But stealing is a lot more complicated than that. If we erect systems that enrich some at the expense of others, it's also stealing. Gandhi understood this when he said, if I take anything that I do not need for my own immediate use and I keep it, I thieve it from somebody else. Likewise, from a liberation perspective, written by former slaves who had everything taken from them, including the use of their own bodies and the making of their own choices, stealing from others means something much more than the petty thefts committed by those who are often so desperate precisely because society has taken everything away from them and gives them little choice. This is a command written for the whole of society, not merely for individuals, to make certain no one is left out from its benefits and its opportunities. It's not an excuse to criminalize the poor and marginalized. Here's how I'd write it today. Do not diminish the lives of those who appear or think or live differently than you by stealing their rights, their opportunities, or their dignities from them, or by locking them away or harassing them in your streets. The 9th command says, "You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor." I'm guessing there was a lot of scapegoating going on when this one was written. Who better to shift the blame on than upon those who had no rights to begin with? The idea of the scapegoat actually comes from the Hebrew Scriptures. In Leviticus, Moses' brother Aaron, a priest, lays both hands on the head of a goat, then confesses all the iniquities of his people. Leviticus says, "The goat will carry on itself all their iniquities into a solitary place, and the man will release it into the wilderness." Oppressed people, no more so than the Jews themselves, know what it means to become society's scapegoats. When we lie to ourselves about others in this way, especially about whole groups of people, we not only harm them, we deceive ourselves. I think this commandment is especially important to follow today, given how easy social media makes it for us to demonize others with little knowledge of the facts and the extraordinary damage we can cause. It's more than giving grace. It's about civil discourse and being as charitable towards others as possible. So here's how I'd put it. Do not blame others for your own shortcomings, or be unkind to those you disagree with or are dislike you. The final command is a prohibition against coveting the things that belong to others. To understand this, it is again worth considering it from the perspective of former slaves. Coveting what others have often leads to the justification of taking what we want from them. Slaves and other oppressed people were most often the very occupants of the lands and homes they were later forced to serve. Coveting what belongs to others leads to the worst kinds of oppression and injustice, just as it has for the original occupants of our own nation. And as with false witness, the blame for their plight gets shifted onto the very victims of such injustice. So coveting isn't simply about interpersonal envy or internal envy. It's about entire societies fostering the motivation to take what already belongs to other people. That's my definition of injustice, forcing someone to fight for what already belongs to them. From other people, from other communities, from other nations. Coveting is the root of injustice and war. So here's how I'd put the 10th commandment. Do not take what you want at the expense of others, or deny that you are responsible for the welfare and fulfillment of others in your community and throughout the world. For me, it's easy to understand the depth of all these commands, which otherwise sound rather puritanical and arbitrary, by beginning with the principle laid out in the very first. Your religion must free you from the yoke of fear, hate, and false certainty, and move you to work for the liberation of others. Put nothing before your freedom or the freedom of others, and reject any beliefs that bind your heart and mind or that lead you to oppress anyone. Indeed, for me, this should be the first principle behind all that we do. Thank you. For our benediction today, the words of Unitarian minister Barbara Peskin. Because of those who came before, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of and in spite of the horizons of their visions, we too dream. Let us go remembering to praise, to live in the moment, to love mightily, and to bow to the mystery. Peace, shalom, salam alaikum, amen.
Shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you. Guide your way home. Guide your way home. Guide your way home. May the shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you. Guide your way home. Guide your way home. Guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you. Guide your way home. Guide your way home. Guide your way home. shine.